A drunk man stumbled down the street, startled when a mattress seemingly materialized before him. He thought his vision was blurred, but then, a beautiful woman emerged from beneath it. Seeing her unsteady on her feet, he rushed to help, only to be pulled down onto the mattress with her. Just then, a bedsheet drifted down from an upstairs window, covering them both. As the two strangers struggled beneath the sheet, onlookers mistook their movements for something illicit. They were promptly escorted to the police station by neighborhood residents. Mortified, they explained to the police that they were complete strangers, then proceeded to blame each other for the predicament. However, as the man argued with the police, the woman burst into tears. It turned out she had just been through a divorce. Her no-good husband had not only taken the toilet seat, but also left her with the house and a massive loan, even stiffing her mother on borrowed money. Their last conversation involved her correcting his pronunciation, only to be met with insults. Although her belongings had been decimated by her husband's clearing out, she was determined to discard the mattress they once shared, erasing all memories of him. Seeing the woman cry, the man suddenly remembered encountering her yesterday at the supermarket. She had been standing in front of a shelf, tears welling in her eyes. It turned out she'd been shopping out of habit, buying groceries for two. Only at the checkout did she remember her divorce and her drastically changed financial situation. She had to put each item back, the realization of her circumstances bringing her to tears. Having witnessed the same woman crying twice, the man felt a pang of sympathy and apologized, making amends with her. Leaving the police station, they both hoped never to see each other again. They agreed, turning and walking away. Yet, to their surprise, they met again the next day. This time, the man was the interviewer, and the woman was the applicant. The man, No Kai-jun, was an insurance actuary. One night, he dreamt of his team leader's magnified face appearing in his window, yelling that the entire team was about to be disbanded because of him. His team leader was a traditionalist, focused on selling existing products. Kai-jun was an innovator, constantly developing new ones. However, every project he developed was a flop, leaving only 2 members on the new product development team. Undeterred, Kai-jun assured his team leader that he was the world's greatest actuary and would definitely create a groundbreaking insurance product. But the team leader had lost all hope and started choking him. Kai-jun ran to escape, only to find himself in a room piled high with insurance proposals. Suddenly, the proposals collapsed, and he saw the insurance god appear on a billboard. Inspired by the insurance god, Kai-jun had an epiphany about a new insurance product to guarantee future happiness, divorce insurance. Having been divorced himself, he wanted to ensure post-divorce happiness for newlywed couples. He woke up and rushed to the office, excitedly pitching the divorce insurance idea to his team leader. He asked his team leader to imagine a divorce scenario. But the team leader's face suddenly fell. Just before Kai-jun arrived, he'd received a divorce request from his wife. Now fully immersed in the scenario, the team leader imagined himself post-divorce, kicked out of his house with nowhere to go and burdened by massive alimony payments. He snapped back to reality in terror. Kai-jun immediately explained, "Divorce is the real disaster." They could use rational and irrational factors to calculate divorce insurance premiums, bringing divorce within the realm of insurability. The team leader was convinced and immediately demanded they find suitable personnel to form a special team. The first person Kai-jun thought of was his close friend, a risk assessor. Earlier in a meeting where Kai-jun passionately presented his divorce insurance idea, the most vocal opponent was Jian-man. But Kai-jun was undeterred. After the meeting, he started hounding Jian-man, claiming he'd been divorced 3 times, and with Jian-man's 1 divorce, they had a combined 4 divorces worth of experience. Jian-man, however, was more focused on why Kai-jun had been divorced 3 times. Kai-jun explained that he couldn't stand one-night stands, so he had to make divorce insurance work. That evening, the two had dinner together. Jian-man questioned Kai-jun about his 3 divorces, stating he needed to thoroughly vet him before deciding to join the team. Kai-jun reluctantly recounted how his previous wives had divorced him due to irreconcilable differences in their views on marriage, worldviews, and life philosophies. Did she want an open marriage? Yes. Kai-jun, in turn, couldn't understand why a responsible man like Jian-man had gotten divorced. Jian-man explained that his wife was a passionate interior designer. One day, she suddenly decided there was one element disrupting the feng shui of their home. That element, unfortunately, was him. So, he was forced to leave empty-handed. After the two heartbroken men shared their woes, Jian Man finally agreed to join the special divorce insurance team. Two people were clearly not enough, so the team leader tasked Kai Jun with further recruitment. Their criteria: divorced men and women. Initially, they expected few applicants, but the response was unexpectedly overwhelming. Kai Jun conducted countless interviews, hearing all sorts of divorce stories, but very few candidates had any insurance knowledge or met their requirements. Just as he was feeling exhausted, the next interviewee walked in, the mattress woman from that fateful night. This time, he finally learned her name, Han Duel. Not only was she divorced, but she also had professional experience as an insurance consultant. Seeing that Han Duel had recently gone through her divorce, he guessed the reason behind her discarding the mattress that night. Suddenly understanding her emotional state, he extended his hand towards Han Duel, declaring they should let bygones be bygones. From now on, they were colleagues. Also recruited was Han Duel's friend, Ah Young, a claims adjuster at an insurance company. She was the only one among them who hadn't been divorced, as she was vehemently opposed to marriage. Kai Jun argued that she didn't qualify, but she countered that she could divorce herself. Ultimately, unable to find anyone else, they hired her due to her insurance experience. The divorce insurance team was finally assembled. The team leader proudly led the four of them into the company. "We're going to make history." Stepping into the elevator, he remembered an important announcement. Headquarters was sending an executive to join their divorce insurance team. Everyone buzzed with speculation about who this executive might be. At that moment, the elevator doors opened. A woman with a sharp, short haircut and a decisive air appeared before them. Hearing the team leader address her as Na Rei, Kai Jun quickly turned around. Na Rei waved at him, a smug look on her face at his astonishment. The team leader, sensing something was amiss, asked if they knew each other. "I'm no Kai Jun's ex-wife." "She's my first ex-wife." Na Rei led the divorce insurance team on their first sales pitch. The location she chose was the annual wedding fair. Couples about to walk down the aisle were excitedly selecting wedding supplies. Vendors showcased their wares for soon-to-be wed couples: appliances, jewelry, wedding dresses, honeymoon packages. Meanwhile, Kai Jun's team enthusiastically pitched divorce insurance services on stage. He told the couples preparing for marriage that they all needed to prepare for divorce as well. Their company's divorce insurance product could help people accept reality and move on, because divorce was more complicated than marriage and more painful than any disease. The couples, feeling jinxed, pelted them with various objects, chasing the four off the stage. The team retreated, heads in their hands, hiding somewhere and berating themselves for the terrible idea. Just then, a woman from the exhibition approached them to inquire about the insurance. The four were surprised to discover she was the most vocal opponent during the presentation. She explained that she had been too embarrassed to ask questions with so many people around. After hearing Kai Jun's presentation, she decided that marriage seemed destined for unhappiness and wanted to purchase a policy to prepare for her future divorce. Unexpectedly, Jun refuted this viewpoint. His perspective was completely the opposite. He believed that the purpose of both divorce and marriage was ultimately the pursuit of happiness. Na Rei chaired the divorce insurance team's first meeting. She wanted to develop a divorce prediction model based on big data. To determine the feasibility of divorce insurance, they needed to collect data related to divorce. Han Duel argued that to gain data support from related departments, they needed a justifiable reason to prove the necessity of divorce insurance before collecting the data. Kai Jun supported Han Duel's view. Na Rei, noticing Jun's favoritism towards Han Duel, became annoyed and insisted they collect the data first. The team leader, worried they would argue, stepped in to mediate. However, instead of mediating, he unleashed a noxious fart, forcing everyone to cover their noses. Na Rei quickly delegated data collection tasks. Kai Jun and Han Duel were paired, while she and the remaining members formed another group, then quickly left to escape the leader's gas bomb. Kai Jun took Han Duel to eat first, believing they needed sustenance to work effectively. While parking, he got into a dispute over a parking spot with a man in a sports car. They decided to settle it with a game of rock, paper, scissors. Jun won. The other man cursed and drove off. Han Duel thanked Kai Jun for winning, saying it avenged her a little, because the man was her ex-husband. Seeing Han-duel's low spirits, Kai-jun tried everything to cheer her up. After the meal, Han-duel wanted to visit the courthouse or a law firm to collect data, but Kai-jun took her to a temple instead. They were greeted by a young nun. Seeing her familiarity with Kai-jun, Han-duel assumed they were friends. "We used to be married," Kai-jun revealed, telling Han-duel to ask his ex-wife anything, as she was a very wise woman. Han-duel explained their purpose. They wanted to collect data to demonstrate the need for divorce insurance and asked for the nun's perspective on divorce. The nun opened up. Since childhood, she'd yearned for a spiritual life, separate from worldly concerns, but hadn't dared to tell her parents. She'd followed a conventional path, working and then marrying. After marriage, Jun understood her desire and helped her fulfill her wish. The nun understood that many couples choosing divorce faced external obstacles, as society often criticizes those who don't endure suffering, but looks down on those who divorce. The nun believed divorce insurance could help those facing these external pressures and encourage a more positive outlook. When someone bravely overcomes societal judgment and chooses divorce to be true to themselves, divorce insurance could support them and offer hope for the future. Han-duel suddenly had a realization. Kai-jun knew the trip wasn't in vain. The nun wasn't just his second wife, but also his spiritual guide. She told them about a once-in-a-century meteor shower that night, suggesting they stay to watch. Seeing Han-duel's interest, Kai-jun ordered pizza and took her to his camper van to watch the meteors. They discussed divorce insurance ideas, asking each other about the most unique coverage they desired. Kai-jun wanted speech insurance. In marriage, he'd be able to choose his words freely each day without rejection. Han-duel guessed he'd either been hurt by words or had hurt others with his own. Kai-jun paused, not answering. Then Han-duel shared her desired coverage, self-esteem insurance. If one's self-esteem was damaged or destroyed in a marriage, they would be compensated. What she wanted most was the restoration of her self-worth. Meanwhile, Jianman and Na-rae were having a similar conversation. Initially, Na-rae had asked Jianman to take her to the most professional place to gather data. To her surprise, he took her to an internet cafe. For Jianman, relaxation was paramount. However, just minutes later, Na-rae was slumped in her chair, snoring loudly. Jianman, in disbelief, went to check on her. Na-rae woke up, slightly embarrassed, and excused herself for some fresh air. Jianman followed her out, asking about her marriage to Jun. He was surprised, as Kai-jun's close friend, to have only met her once at the wedding and never in their daily lives. Na-rae revealed they hadn't legally registered their marriage. They dated for 3 months, got married, then divorced. After the wedding, she hadn't met any of Kai-jun's relatives. Their divorce stemmed from a few hurtful words. Words, she said, were the sharpest weapons, capable of not just wounding, but killing a marriage. She, too, wished for speech insurance, where hurtful words could be compensated with kind ones. Jianman, on the other hand, wanted emergency rescue insurance for space travel. Na-rae laughed. Their conversation became more open, their relationship thawing from its initial frostiness. Jianman even moved closer to Na-rae, taking her hand to point out constellations in the night sky. At the same time, Jun reached out to Han-duel, helping her onto the roof of the van to stargaze. As Han-duel watched Jun bathed in the moonlight, a strange feeling stirred within her. The next day, Han-duel ran into Na-rae at the movie theater. After the film, Na-rae, seeing Han-duel was also alone, asked about her plans. Soon after, Han-duel took Na-rae to a craft workshop to learn knitting. Na-rae chose green yarn, saying she wanted to knit something for someone she liked. Recalling Kai-jun mentioning his fondness for green during their camping trip, Han-duel questioned Na-rae. Na-rae frankly admitted she still had feelings for Jun. While acknowledging the slim chance of reconciliation, she wasn't ready to forget him. She realized her feelings for Kai-jun were growing. The next day, the insurance team met again. They presented a detailed insurance plan based on their collected data. To get company approval, Kai-jun suggested offering divorce prevention services during the policy period, thereby reducing divorce rates. Marriage counseling and parenting guidance were also good options. Na-rae decided to include all these services in the policy terms. To celebrate the plan's completion, the six went bowling. As it was Han-duel's first time, Jun offered to teach her. Not to be outdone, Na-rae joined them, standing close to Kai-jun to learn as well. The other team members sensed the strange atmosphere between the three and kept their distance. After bowling, they went to karaoke, singing until they were all slightly tipsy before parting ways. The following day, Na-rae and the team leader formally presented their proposal. After a lively discussion, the board finally reached a decision. Na-rae announced their plan was approved, but with conditions. They had to sell 30 policies within 3 days, and maintain a 0% divorce rate among policyholders within the 6-month contract term. Everyone was disheartened. Selling 30 policies in 3 days was a feat only top insurance agents could achieve. For them, it seemed impossible. The team leader wanted to abandon the plan, but Kai-jun refused to give up. He rallied the team, confident they could succeed, because there was one place that could solve their problem. The four went to a wedding expo. Kai-jun reasoned that couples about to marry often experienced pre-wedding jitters, anxieties about the uncertainties of married life. They could capitalize on this. However, their enthusiastic product pitch was met with rejection as marriage-minded young people chased them off the stage. It wasn't until the woman who had initially been their fiercest critic at the earlier exhibition stepped forward to purchase a policy that others began to inquire. Soon after, a mother bought a policy for her daughter who was about to get married, as a safeguard in case the daughter married poorly and faced marital difficulties. Right after, another woman also bought insurance for her soon-to-be married son. However, after the two women looked at each other, they simultaneously gasped in astonishment. The groom's mother and the bride's mother, they were soon-to-be in-laws. In that moment of recognition, both mothers stood up in surprise. However, after the initial shock, they both understood the other's thinking. After all, the future is full of uncertainties, and as parents, it's perfectly normal to want additional security for their children. Therefore, they shook hands and made peace, deciding to buy the insurance together. Seeing they had reached an agreement, Jeon-man questioned them to confirm the insurance terms. The first question was, did they want their children to spend holidays at the wife's parents' house? No. Yes. What did you say? The two mothers were once again at odds. Kai-jun felt a headache coming on. Just then, Ah-young rushed in to report that chaos had erupted outside. It turned out that all the couples attending the wedding expo were very interested in the divorce insurance, but they had all secretly lined up for consultations, leading to their partners discovering their actions. Suspecting a lack of faith in the marriage, arguments ensued. The scene was utter chaos. The four of them watched the commotion, their hearts filled with complex emotions. The high number of inquiries indicated that the promotion was effective. But arguing about divorce insurance before even getting married suggested a high likelihood of actual divorce later. And if divorces happened, the company would have to pay out, resulting in losses. On one hand, they had to fulfill their insurance sales targets. On the other hand, they needed to keep the divorce rate down. The situation had reached an impasse. Han-dul quickly came up with a solution. Put these applicants on hold. After a comprehensive review, they would decide whether these couples were eligible for the insurance. Jeon-man worried about drafting the insurance terms within 3 days. Han-dul nodded, assuring him it could be done. Trusting Han-dul, Kai-jun loudly called for everyone to quiet down, announcing that they would evaluate each couple to determine their suitability for marriage. As soon as he finished speaking, stuffed animals rained down on him from the disgruntled couples who took his words as a bad omen. The four of them ran back to the office, reporting the decision to postpone the insurance sales to their supervisor and Na-rae. The supervisor was furious, insisting they should sign the insurance contracts first, achieve the sales target, and then deal with other issues later. Na-rae, however, agreed with Han-dul, pointing out that contracts with a high divorce rate would cause losses for the company. Even if they secured the contracts, the drawbacks would outweigh the benefits. She asked the four how they planned to increase the sign-up rate while mitigating risks. Han-dul replied that they would review and assess the risk of divorce before registration and charge additional fees to minimize potential losses. Na-rae was satisfied with their proposed plan and looked forward to the results. Praised for her idea, Han-dul felt a sense of accomplishment and grew more confident in the divorce insurance. Ah-young congratulated her on taking an important step after her own divorce. They chatted about having slept over at Kai-jun's place the previous night. The four of them worked overtime late into the night. Initially, Ah Young planned to sleep over at Han Duel's place. Kai Jun, noticing Han Duel's awkward expression and remembering that she had gotten rid of her mattress and moved, quickly came to her rescue, suggesting they all have drinks together and then stay over at his place. Han Duel felt a surge of gratitude, her gaze towards Kai Jun filled with both thankfulness and an indescribable emotion. Ah Young was oblivious to Han Duel's feelings. Last night, when she got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, she overheard Kai Jun on the phone, telling someone to drink less and not to forget their haircut that weekend. She suspected the person Kai Jun was talking to at that hour must be a woman. Perhaps he already had a girlfriend. Han Duel outwardly agreed with Ah Young's speculation, but inside, she felt a pang of sadness. The next day, the couples who had inquired about divorce insurance at the wedding expo arrived for their divorce risk assessments. Among them were the two mothers who had purchased the insurance for their children. They had reached an agreement regarding their previous disagreement. After marriage, the couple would spend even-numbered years at the husband's family home and odd-numbered years at the wife's family home. Both mothers believed that clarifying all matters before marriage would be beneficial. Jian Man reviewed their applications and announced that the contract would take effect from the date of marriage registration. The reason for not using the wedding date was because many weddings are cancelled on the day itself. The mothers found the mention of cancelled weddings inauspicious and angrily considered refusing to sign. Kai Jun quickly intervened, explaining that he only wanted to ensure everything was secure, as he himself had experienced a divorce immediately after his wedding. The mothers sympathized with his situation and not only signed the contracts readily, but also gave him invitations to their children's wedding. All the assessments were finally completed. Kai Jun handed a stack of signed contracts to his supervisor. Overjoyed, the supervisor hugged him and suggested a celebratory dinner on him. However, Kai Jun declined, saying he had an important engagement that evening. Han Duel assumed he was meeting the woman he had called the previous night. Unexpectedly, while taking out the trash, she ran into Kai Jun, also taking out the trash. She then realized the important engagement was simply not wanting to miss garbage sorting time. The two sat on a swing and talked. Kai Jun expressed some anxiety. He had devised the divorce insurance plan, but he often felt stressed, worrying that it might drive apart couples who were deeply in love. Han Duel comforted him, comparing the divorce insurance to an umbrella. Their current job was like holding an umbrella for couples, returning it to them when it rained. But no matter how hard they tried, whether or not it rained wasn't up to them. Han Duel's words reminded Kai Jun of his sister. That day, his sister had confided in him that she was unhappy and wanted a divorce. Kai Jun, knowing his brother-in-law to be a hardworking and responsible man, thought his sister was asking for too much and advised her that there was more to marriage than just love. Many people married without being in love. He urged her to try harder. His sister had replied that some things couldn't be fixed no matter how hard one tried. But he insisted she hadn't tried hard enough. His sister said nothing more, stood up, and left his apartment. He chased after her. She turned back to look at him, and the complex expression in her eyes had pained him deeply. As the memory resurfaced, Kai Jun understood that it had been raining in his sister's world that day. Unfortunately, he hadn't been able to hold an umbrella for her. Lost in thought, he was startled by a sudden downpour. He quickly pulled Han Duel under the eaves for shelter. As they parted ways, he invited her to attend the wedding with him the next day, emphasizing the need to ensure everything went smoothly. The following day, Hill appeared before him in a beautiful dress. Kai Jun couldn't help but feel a flutter in his chest. Arriving at the wedding venue, they anxiously awaited the appearance of the bride and groom. However, the ceremony time arrived, and the bride and groom were nowhere to be seen. The guests began to murmur. Kai Jun and Han Duel suddenly panicked, suspecting something had gone wrong. Just then, the MC stepped onto the stage and announced the official start of the ceremony. They both breathed a sigh of relief just as the large screen lit up, revealing the faces of the bride and groom. The couple announced that they were indeed single and had no intention of holding a traditional wedding. Since their mothers had secretly bought divorce insurance, they decided to preempt them. They wouldn't be attending their own wedding, opting to go straight on their honeymoon, but they assured everyone they would live happily ever after and wouldn't be needing the insurance payout. Hearing the guests whispering about divorce insurance, Kai Jun was unsure how to handle the situation. At that moment, music started playing. The two mothers, hand in hand, walked onto the stage and completed the wedding ceremony on behalf of their children. Kai-jun, moved by the mother's love, led the applause, relieved that despite the unexpected turn of events, the wedding had concluded beautifully. Two mothers thanked Kai-jun and Han-dul for attending the wedding. Not wanting to waste the rented wedding car, they suggested Jun and Han-dul take it for a spin, threatening to cancel the contract otherwise. Reluctantly, the two climbed into the excessively long vehicle. To ease the awkward atmosphere, Kai-jun offered some wine. They'd barely driven a short distance when they encountered road construction ahead. The car was too long to turn around. Meanwhile, Hill received a call from Na-rae, informing him that 5 contracts had been rejected and needed to be re-signed. Stuck in the now substantial traffic jam behind them, Kai-jun decided he'd had enough. He got out of the car, extended his hand to Han-dul, and, in a moment of rebellion, decided to abandon the vehicle. Seeing his bright smile, Han-dul couldn't resist taking his hand and, under the watchful eyes of everyone around them, they strode away, freely escaping the gridlock. Free from the jam, they laughed heartily. Suddenly, Jun received a text message. He abruptly excused himself and left Han-dul to meet someone. He arrived at a museum to find a man and ask him to sign an insurance contract. The man turned out to be his brother-in-law. Kai-jun encouraged his brother-in-law to sign the divorce insurance policy, hoping it would help him move on from the pain of losing his wife and find the strength to love again. It turned out that the person Jun had called the previous night, reminding him to drink less and get a haircut, was his brother-in-law. Ever since his sister's death, he had meticulously cared for his brother-in-law, trying to make up for the regret he felt for not taking better care of his sister when she was alive. He constantly felt that if he had been a little kinder to her, she wouldn't have left them. His brother-in-law, unable to contain his grief any longer, broke down in tears under Jun's caring attention. As Kai-jun left the museum, a leaf fell before his eyes. After his sister's death, a leaf had also fallen on her worn sweater. He believed this leaf was a response from his sister to his longing. Overcome with sadness, he crouched down and wept. To release his pent-up emotions, he ran all the way from the museum back home. Exhausted, he collapsed in the courtyard of his apartment building, just as Han-dul happened to see him. Kai-jun grabbed her dress and suggested they get coffee together. However, shortly after arriving at the cafe, he fell asleep, leaning against his chair. When he awoke, he saw Han-dul quietly knitting. His sister had also enjoyed knitting. In that moment, Han-dul's gentle gestures and voice reminded him so much of his sister. He asked Han-dul to teach him how to knit. He wanted to finish his sister's unfinished project. Later, to change the mood, he took Han-dul grocery shopping. During their conversation, Han-dul finally asked the question that had been on her mind: why did he get divorced? Kai-jun's answer was that sometimes he could be petty. A few years earlier, Kai-jun had been married to Na-rae. Initially, they had lived harmoniously. Then one day, to celebrate Na-rae's return from a business trip, Kai-jun planned a lavish dinner. Unexpectedly, Na-rae wanted to entertain a male acquaintance from overseas at home. Kai-jun initially thought hosting at home would be more convenient. He could even help Na-rae entertain their guest, but Na-rae informed him that they wouldn't be hosting at their shared home, but at her own separate apartment. Kai-jun had always assumed Na-rae had sold her pre-marriage apartment and was surprised to learn she still owned it. He found it strange that Na-rae had another apartment. Na-rae, however, argued that she was perfectly capable of paying the mortgage and, furthermore, needed her own space. Just because they were married didn't mean they had to share everything. Marriage held an important place in her life, but she didn't believe it was everything. At that moment, Na-rae was discussing with Jian-man whether couples should maintain separate spaces. It turned out that when she went to the laundromat to wash a teddy bear, Jian-man happened to be there. Seeing her press the start button, Jian-man rushed to stop her, but it was too late. Na-rae didn't understand why he was so agitated. It wasn't until the teddy bear exploded in the washing machine that Jian-man pointed to a sign on the wall strictly prohibiting the washing of stuffed animals. If the machine was damaged, compensation was required based on its value. Na-rae, terrified, quickly grabbed Jian-man, who was about to leave, and begged for his help. Jian-man verbally refused, but his actions spoke otherwise. He patiently removed the scattered cotton stuffing from the explosion, cleaned everything up, and restarted the washing machine. Seeing the machine working normally, he breathed a sigh of relief. The problem was solved. He grabbed his lunchbox and prepared to leave, but Na-Rae insisted on eating with him. Jian-man had no choice but to take her to a restaurant for takeout. While waiting, they heard the owner's cries of pain from the kitchen, then saw her husband run out and grab all the money from the cash register. They then learned that the owner's husband had been gambling and drinking for years, never working. The owner was also frequently subjected to his abuse. Learning that their children were grown and had their own families, Jian-man immediately took out an insurance contract and advised the owner to get a divorce. After the owner signed the insurance contract, she could first seek help to improve her marriage. If her husband still didn't change, she could proceed with the divorce. Having helped the owner and purchased their food, Jian-man was ready to go home. But Na-Rae, starving, insisted on eating at his place. Jian-man reluctantly took her home. He pulled out a simple chair and placed it opposite his. "I'll sit here. This is the homeowner's chair." Na-Rae was surprised by his stiffness, but eager to eat, she moved to the other chair. After the meal, she observed Jian-man's sparsely decorated apartment. He explained that his ex-wife loved decorating. Before the divorce, the apartment had been overflowing with belongings. His ex-wife had said she wanted to create a warm home for him, but he felt increasingly distanced from it. He'd then realized he only needed a private space. This resonated deeply with Na-Rae. She had been criticized, and even lost her marriage, for protecting her own personal space. She was surprised to find someone who felt the same way. As she left, Na-Rae told Jian-man that she would bring her own chair next time. Jian-man didn't immediately understand what she meant. It wasn't until he returned home and saw Na-Rae's teddy bear staring back at him that he realized she had left behind a reason to return. Meanwhile, Jun, pushing his shopping cart towards the checkout, realized Han-Dul wasn't with him. He called her, and she said she was coming. Unexpectedly, Han-Dul's ex-husband suddenly appeared with another woman. Not wanting to see his hateful face, Han-Dul quickly turned away, accidentally knocking items off a shelf. Her ex-husband sarcastically called her an idiot, then rammed her with his shopping cart. Han-Dul couldn't take it anymore and shouted back. Dissatisfied with her defiance, her ex-husband pushed the cart harder. Just then, Kai-jun arrived and shielded Han-Dul, using his own cart to block the attack. Her ex-husband cursed and left. Han-Dul, watching Kai-jun help her clean up the mess, felt a mix of bitterness and warmth. Back at work, the team met again, and the team leader reported that 3 contracts had been re-signed. 2 remained. Na-Rae asked, "Within the 6-month contract period, the divorce rate has to be 0. How can they guarantee that?" Kai-jun said they would select high-risk divorce clients for close monitoring. To identify these high-risk clients, they could use methods like astrology and physiognomy. Han-Dul also suggested divorce prevention measures like couples golf, couples travel, and marriage therapy. Na-Rae was pleased with these suggestions and instructed everyone to continue collaborating. Kai-jun and Han-Dul took photos of their insurance clients to a fortune teller, asking him to rank them by divorce risk. After finishing, they took the opportunity to have their own fortunes read. Their faces were smeared with a rainbow of colors. Back in the car, they looked at each other's comical appearances and burst out laughing. After their playful moment, they started to wipe the mess off their faces. Seeing Han-Dul struggling to clean hers, Jun offered to help. As they leaned in close, the atmosphere became slightly charged. Han-Dul felt a twinge of awkwardness. Just then, Kai-jun received a call from the director of the insurance division at the Financial Supervisory Service FSS. The director informed him that they had evidence suggesting his team had violated insurance regulations during product development. The approval for their divorce insurance could be revoked. The previous day, Kai-jun and Han-Dul, upon learning about the issue with their divorce insurance, had rushed to the FSS. An official showed them the flyer they'd distributed at the wedding expo. Someone had filed a complaint about the last clause on the flyer, which stated that policyholders could have a divorce ceremony for just 30,000 won. This clause violated insurance regulations, as such benefits are only permitted for items that mitigate the risk of accidents. Holding a divorce ceremony didn't qualify as a risk-reducing measure. Kai-jun and Han-Dul were surprised that the complainant seemed as knowledgeable as an underwriter. However, they weren't willing to let their hard work go down the drain. In an attempt to salvage the situation, Kai-jun hastily assured the FSS that they wouldn't be holding any divorce ceremonies. Instead, they would provide divorce prevention measures until the policy expiration, guaranteeing that the first 10 policyholders wouldn't divorce. The official warned them that if any divorce ceremonies did take place, they would bear full responsibility. In that case, their divorce insurance wouldn't be officially launched. Kai-jun and Han-dul reluctantly agreed and returned to their company. They immediately informed their team about the need to ensure none of the first 10 policyholders divorced. Their team leader was furious. Divorce involved countless uncontrollable factors. They couldn't possibly monitor the status of every insured couple. Moreover, their 2 specialists had recently identified the individual with the highest risk of divorce among the first 10 policyholders, and both specialists had chosen the same person. This indicated that this person's marriage was in trouble and a divorce ceremony might be imminent. To prevent this divorce, Kai-jun and Han-dul decided to meet with this person, Gu Mai-rae, to help resolve her marital conflict. Meanwhile, Na-rae reported the flyer error to the company's executive. However, she sensed something fishy. The complainant's understanding of insurance regulations and precise identification of the issues suggested they were an industry insider, just like them. She suspected an inside job. The executive vehemently denied the possibility of a mole, but upon leaving her office, he immediately made a phone call, reminding someone to be discreet. Na-rae requested the security manager to check the computer system logs for the past 6 months. The security manager reported no signs of hacking, but noted that 2 employees had used their computers outside of working hours, Kai-jun and Han-dul. Na-rae suggested an outsider might be involved. The manager explained that outsiders were prohibited from entering the company after hours, and all company computers were locked. Unless, of course, someone had stolen an employee's ID card for access. Na-rae ordered the security manager to continue the investigation. After he left, she pondered who might be pulling the strings. At that moment, Kai-jun and Han-dul arrived at Gu Mai-rae's place to dissuade her from getting divorced. Gu Mai-rae, a tarot card reader, mistook them for clients and greeted them warmly. Upon learning their true intentions, she promptly kicked them out. Dejected, they sat outside her door, planning to talk to her again when she emerged. Seeing no sign of Gu Mai-rae leaving, Han-dul devised a plan. She knocked loudly on the door. When Gu Mai-rae opened it, she claimed she wanted a tarot reading. She selected 3 cards to see if she would succeed in her mission. Coincidentally, the chosen cards all predicted her ultimate victory. Han-dul cornered Gu Mai-rae, revealing that her mission was to prevent her divorce. For the tarot reading to be accurate, Gu Mai-rae couldn't get divorced. If Gu Mai-rae proceeded with the divorce, it would prove the reading wrong. At this point, Gu Mai-rae finally opened up about her marital problems. They had met during a trip. When she was exhausted, her husband had helped her. They traveled together, and feelings developed. Upon returning to Korea, they immediately registered their marriage. After their wedding, her husband continued his work as a wildlife photographer, traveling the world to film documentaries. His work trips were long, and she spent more time alone than with him. Sometimes she didn't even know if he was alive or dead. She longed for a happy married life, to get pregnant, have children, and raise them together. But her husband was solely focused on his current work and didn't want children, which is why she was considering divorce. Han-dul, sensing her lingering feelings for her husband, guessed he might be working so hard to provide her with a better life. She encouraged Gu Mai-rae to find ways to improve their relationship. Gu Mai-rae mentioned her husband was currently in Korea, photographing lakes. She didn't know his exact location, but he had uploaded a picture of the place as his profile picture. Han-dul asked for the picture. Gu Mai-rae also mentioned her husband drove an SUV with an antenna that resembled insect antennae. They could use this clue to find him. Back in the car, using the photo, they located Gu Mai-rae's husband in a village. Han-dul decided to head there immediately. While waiting for Ah-yeon to arrive, Kai-jun video called Jeon-man to update him on their whereabouts. To his surprise, the video revealed Jeon-man and Na-rae in a close embrace. It turned out Jeon-man had stayed late at the office to process data and decided to play JoJo during his break. Unexpectedly, Na-rae also enjoyed JoJo. Jeon-man, finding a kindred spirit, pulled out a basic JoJo set to teach her. Seeing Na-rae struggle, he impatiently stood behind her, guiding her hands. As they stood close, their eyes met, and the atmosphere became undeniably intimate. Just then, his phone rang. He startled, pushing Na-Rae away and grabbing his phone to see Jun calling. He frantically tried to hang up but accidentally answered the video call instead. Hearing Na-Rae cry out in pain as she fell, he rushed to help her up. Unaware of this, Jun misinterpreted the scene as something far more intimate. Worried about Jun's reaction, Han-Dul comforted him, suggesting there must be a reasonable explanation, that things weren't as they appeared. Kai-jun, recalling the mattress incident from when he and Han-Dul first met, decided not to jump to conclusions about Jian-man and Na-Rae. After Ah-young arrived, the three of them headed to the village where Gu Mai-rae's husband was staying. Upon arrival, they were unsure where to start their search. Suddenly, Ah-young spotted a farmer working in the field, a figure she found strangely familiar. The next moment, the farmer turned around, and she realized with astonishment that it was the man she had once been on a blind date with. Ah-young had actually decided against marriage, but her family, unsupportive and misunderstanding, kept pressuring her into blind dates. Initially, she assumed the man would be just as disinterested as she was. After meeting him, she politely chatted for a bit, then clearly stated her lack of intention to marry before leaving. Unexpectedly, he had been captivated by her aloofness and began pursuing her relentlessly. Ah-young knew he was a filial piety enthusiast. During their previous encounter, he had gifted her a large cabbage, mentioning he was also a farmer. She had thought he was joking, but now, seeing him in the field, she realized he was telling the truth. She listened as he proudly introduced himself as the village head, adding that their meeting here was destined. Ah-young hastily denied any connection, but Kai-jun enthusiastically approached him for assistance. The village head checked the security cameras and located footage of Gu Mai-rae's husband's car entering the village, but not leaving. This confirmed he was still within the village. There were only two possible camping spots, Rest Stop 1 and Rest Stop 2. However, some people also ventured into the forest. Kai-jun decided to split their group of 4 into 2 search teams. The village head suggested he and Ah-young check the rest stops within the village. Before they set off, he warned Kai-jun and Han-Dul about the high altitude and unpredictable weather, reminding them that it would get dark soon and they absolutely had to descend the mountain before nightfall. Having received their instructions, the two immediately set off. The mountain road was rough and difficult to navigate. Kai-jun offered his hand to Han-Dul. Han-Dul's heart skipped a beat, a mix of flustered excitement and shyness washing over her. Kai-jun, not letting her refuse, took her hand, and the two helped each other deeper into the forest. Unexpectedly, before finding Gu Mai-rae's husband's SUV, they lost their way. To make matters worse, it suddenly began to pour, and they had no shelter. Kai-jun took off his jacket and held it over Han-Dul's head to shield her from the rain. Han-Dul stared at Kai-jun's face, now mere inches from her own. In the small, intimate space Kai-jun created for her, her heart pounded once more. By the time the rain stopped, it was dark, and both their phones had run out of battery and died. They could only stumble through the forest. Just then, they heard a strange sound. Turning to look, they saw a large tiger growling and advancing towards them. Just as they were about to run, a voice called out, telling them not to move and not to look the tiger directly in the eyes. Then, a man rushed out, simultaneously pointing a laser pointer at the ground to distract the tiger and filming with his phone. Seeing the tiger getting closer, Kai-jun snatched the laser pointer and threw it away. While the tiger was sniffing the device, he pulled Han-Dul and the man away and ran. Reaching safety, Kai-jun and Han-Dul were brushing themselves off when they saw the man staring excitedly at his phone, shouting about having captured a video of the tiger. The two looked at him closely, cautiously asking if he was Gu Mai-rae's future husband. Receiving confirmation, they rejoiced, immediately telling him they had been searching for him all day. Shin thanked them for helping him get the tiger footage. Kai-jun took the opportunity to ask Shin for a favor to meet Gu Mai-rae. The three of them went to Shin's camper van and had a deep discussion about his and Gu Mai-rae's marriage. Shin confided that he and his wife had initially fallen in love at first sight, but she always chased unrealistic things, trusting tarot card readings more than the existence of the Siberian tiger. He worried that their differing views meant that meeting now would likely lead to divorce. Kai-jun advised him that if they didn't meet and didn't try to communicate, they would never know what the future held, and they couldn't condemn their relationship out of fear. After hearing Kai-jun's words, Shin had a change of heart and agreed to meet his wife and try to resolve their marital issues. Their objective achieved, Kai-jun and Han-dul wearily descended the mountain. Just as they lay down to breathe a sigh of relief, car headlights shone on them. They got up to see Jian-man and Na-rae getting out of the car. Na-rae questioned Kai-jun's actions, scolding him for his impulsive behavior and leaving without telling anyone. Han-dul immediately defended Kai-jun, saying that it was her request to come. Just as the three were arguing, Ah-young and the village head returned empty-handed. Watching them report the situation to Kai-jun and Han-dul, Na-rae, a CEO, felt like an outsider. Jian-man quickly spoke up for her, saying he brought her along because she was part of the team. He then kindly asked Na-rae if she wanted to go back. Seeing how much trouble he'd gone to driving her there, she decided to stay the night. The atmosphere between the two pairs, Kai-jun and Han-dul, and Jian-man and Na-rae, was awkward. The village head and Ah-young added fuel to the fire. "Are you guys a couple now? This pair and us, we're a couple too." Kai-jun and Jian-man slept in the camper van. Both understood that Na-rae was now between them. Jian-man, after much thought, spoke first, wanting to know if Kai-jun had forgotten Na-rae. Kai-jun frankly stated that he had loved her completely and sincerely, but the moment they divorced, everything ended. Regardless of Na-rae's feelings, she was in the past for him. At the same time, Na-rae and Han-dul were also subtly competing, probing Han-dul's feelings for Kai-jun. Han-dul didn't back down, stating that compared to Na-rae, she was the one who wanted to be with Kai-jun long-term, assuming Na-rae had given up on possessing him. The next day, Kai-jun and the others waited anxiously and finally saw Gu Mai-rae arrive to meet her husband. They gave the couple privacy, watching from afar. However, it wasn't long before Gu Mai-rae got up and left. It turned out that as soon as they sat down, her husband excitedly showed her the tiger video. Gu Mai-rae couldn't stand that her husband had been away for so long, and upon their reunion, he only had eyes for the tiger. She felt that the tiger was more important to him than she was, so she angrily left. The 6 onlookers rushed to stop her. Han-dul bowed her head in apology, pleading with Gu Mai-rae to give her husband another chance, while also prompting the husband to speak from his heart. This time, the husband opened up, confessing that he wanted to capture the tiger on film to prove to her that if the world recognized his work, maybe she would recognize him too. Gu Mai-rae blurted out that she had recognized him from the very first time they met, the moment he extended his hand to help her. But he always focused on other things, ignoring her and leaving her feeling lonely. Hearing these words for the first time, the husband finally understood his wife's perspective. He apologized for making her feel alone after their marriage. Seeing their relationship soften, Kai-jun thought they should nudge them a little further to completely abandon the idea of divorce. After some thought, he came up with the idea of holding a marriage reaffirmation ceremony. He explained to everyone that it was a ritual to encourage couples to stay together. To carry out the plan, the 6 of them split up the tasks. Ah-young and the village head decorated the hall. Kai-jun and Han-dul borrowed a wedding dress from an elderly woman in the village. Jian-man and Na-rae borrowed a groom's suit from an elderly man. Everything was ready. With everyone watching, Gu Mai-rae carried a bouquet towards her husband, who was waiting for her. Their attire evoked the fluttering emotions and joy of their first meeting. Beautiful memories flooded back, washing away resentment and anger. They only wanted to hold hands and continue their journey together amidst everyone's congratulations. During the group photo, Jian-man stood next to Na-rae. Ah-young and the village head tilted their heads and smiled. Kai-jun and Han-dul looked at each other affectionately. Everyone was joyful, surrounded by music. Even the aloof Na-rae was pulled into the center of the crowd by the elderly women. Seeing Na-rae's slight awkwardness, Jian-man quickly tossed his jacket to Kai-jun and ran to her rescue. Watching Jian-man acting silly in front of her, Na-rae gradually let go of her reservations and joined in the fun. As the music ended, Na-rae, who hadn't slept the night before, asked Jian-man to take her to the nearest hotel. She wanted a good night's sleep. Jian-man immediately drove her there. They arrived at the nearby hotel and each used their key cards to open the doors to rooms opposite each other, their eyes meeting. Although they didn't speak, both felt a certain unease. Some feelings were about to surface, both dangerous and alluring. Elsewhere, Kai-jun and Han-dul were strolling through the village. Han-dul felt disappointed by Kai-jun's vague answer when Na-rae asked about their relationship the previous night. It turned out that when the four of them were sitting together, Na-rae, as Kai-jun's ex-wife, had asked what their current relationship was. Kai-jun had put his arm around Jeon-man and said, "We've been friends since elementary school." Han-dul had been anticipating something more, but Kai-jun had evaded the question. Bringing this up again made the atmosphere between them a little strained. Han-dul wanted to change the subject. She happened to see an old rotary phone nearby and excitedly ran over to it, only to find it didn't work. Nevertheless, she playfully called her future self, hoping her future self would be confident, successful, and composed. Afterwards, she gently patted Kai-jun's shoulder. He turned around, the distance between them suddenly shortened, their eyes meeting, and a romantic atmosphere filled the air. To hide her embarrassment, Han-dul quickly handed the phone to Kai-jun, telling him to call his future self too. Kai-jun told his future self to definitely remember this day. Hearing this, Han-dul's smile spread from the corners of her eyes across her face, her heart filled with sweetness. The next morning, Kai-jun and Han-dul returned to Seoul. While driving, Kai-jun recited a formula, explaining that a scientist used it to calculate the probability of meeting one's soulmate. Han-dul argued that soulmates didn't exist. Kai-jun countered, explaining that the scientist's calculations didn't result in zero, proving their existence. After a moment, he glanced at Han-dul repeatedly, hesitated, and then surprised her by asking, "Do you want to come live at my place? Stay with me?" Thrilled by the invitation from the man she secretly admired, Han-dul's heart leaped. However, her joy was short-lived as he immediately clarified he meant swapping apartments. Kai-jun reasoned that they both had unpleasant memories associated with their homes and wanted to move out. "So, why don't we try switching places? Maybe it'll bring a fresh perspective." That evening, Kai-jun went to Han-dul's apartment. The place was empty and desolate, with scratch marks on the beams and a hole in the wardrobe from forceful impact. He recognized these as remnants of the abuse inflicted by her ex-husband. Looking at the kitchen, devoid of pots, pans, ingredients, or any cooking utensils, he couldn't help but feel sympathy for her meager living conditions. Meanwhile, Han-dul opened Kai-jun's refrigerator, finding it fully stocked with fresh ingredients. The kitchen was also neatly organized with all the necessary tools. Unfortunately, she couldn't cook and resorted to eating bread. Later, lying on Kai-jun's comfortable bed, Han-dul realized her apartment had no pillows. She hurried to bring him one, running into him in the elevator. He mentioned he was going to his car to get his charger and asked if she needed anything from her apartment, where he was temporarily staying, so he could bring it up for her. Kai-jun retrieved his charger but hesitated to go upstairs immediately, worried about making her uncomfortable. He decided to go back to his own apartment to get his watch. Unexpectedly, as he was about to leave, Han-dul returned. The motion sensor light at the door was broken. Thinking a burglar had broken in, she screamed and started hitting wildly. Startled, Kai-jun quickly pulled her into a hug, loudly identifying himself. Han-dul calmed down, nestled against him, and looked up with a hint of affection in her eyes. Kai-jun, flustered, released her, stepped back, and quickly retreated to her apartment, where he was staying. Before going to sleep, both felt restless. They texted each other, ostensibly giving each other permission to use anything in the apartments, but their messages were laced with subtle probing. Even their final goodnights carried a lingering sweetness. The next day at work, Na-rae saw them arrive together and inquisitively asked about their relationship. They both skillfully evaded the question, ignoring her reaction and quickly stepping into the elevator. Left behind, Na-rae muttered to herself that their synchronized arrival couldn't just be a coincidence. She turned to Jeon-man, who had just approached, for his opinion. He was surprised she knew he was there without turning around. Na-rae explained she could recognize his scent. This suggestive remark stirred something within Jeon-man. The previous night, while cooking at home, he couldn't stop thinking about Na-rae, especially her radiant smile when she complimented his cooking the last time. As Jeon-man and Na-rae rode the elevator together, he thoughtfully positioned himself to shield her from the crowd. Their eyes met, and the air grew thick with unspoken tension. In the same elevator, Kai-jun and Han-dul kept glancing at each other, their eyes filled with a mixture of longing and hesitation, wanting to get closer but afraid to take the next step. Kai-jun waited for the elevator to reach their floor. He stopped Han-dul, wanting to define their relationship. She couldn't find the right words. Kai-jun decided to leave things ambiguous until they both found the true answer within themselves. Just as everyone started their workday, their supervisor rushed in, shouting. Their insurance client, Mrs. Gu, had decided to get a divorce. She and her husband had already filed the papers. Han-dul checked the information and discovered that Mrs. Gu wasn't among the high-risk divorce group they had previously identified. Furthermore, she had only recently purchased the insurance. According to the divorce insurance policy, a claim could only be filed 90 days after the purchase date. The supervisor angrily retorted, "We were told to maintain a zero divorce rate for 6 months. Even though the claim wouldn't be processed for 90 days, the divorce was a fact. The urgent task was to prevent Mrs. Gu from going through with it." Kai-jun, Han-dul, and 2 other colleagues rushed to the courthouse, but they were too late. Mr. and Mrs. Gu had already filed the papers. The 4 returned to the office and reported the situation. The supervisor was furious. Na-rae pointed out there's a 1-month cooling-off period for divorces. They just needed to convince Mrs. Gu to change her mind within that time. As everyone urgently brainstormed solutions, a stranger burst in. The supervisor hastily explained that this was Trang Hai, an insurance salesman he'd brought in to help. Trang Hai revealed that Mrs. Gu was his client, a student in his singing class. She had been scammed by a close friend of 30 years posing as a government official. Although she hadn't lost any money, after hearing about the scam, her husband berated her, calling her stupid and useless. This led her to seek a divorce. Trang Hai seized the opportunity to introduce the divorce insurance policy, successfully securing the sale. After understanding the full story, Kai-jun decided to split into 2 teams. Han-dul and Ah-young would visit Mrs. Gu to assess the situation, while he and Jian-man would meet with her husband. Han-dul and Ah-young ran into Mrs. Gu near her home. Before they could approach, the owner of a hair salon pulled her inside. Following them in, they witnessed a neighbor confiding her troubles to Mrs. Gu. Unable to afford her father's hospital bills, the hospital was forcing his discharge, so she planned to sell her house and downsize. The salon owner chimed in, suggesting she ask Mrs. Gu for a loan. Mrs. Gu immediately offered a sum of money, explaining it was the deposit for her new apartment. If her neighbor was in need, she could borrow it. The salon owner praised her kindness. Witnessing this, Han-dul and Ah-young accompanied Mrs. Gu home. They reminded her about the 90-day waiting period for the insurance claim and tried to dissuade her from the divorce. However, Mrs. Gu was resolute, stating that the timing of the claim didn't matter. She still wanted a divorce. Before leaving, Han-dul gave her her business card, offering assistance if needed. Meanwhile, Kai-jun, disguised as a patient, infiltrated the hospital where Mr. Gu worked. The supervisor went in first, pretending to complain about his unsatisfactory life after his divorce and feeling unwell, subtly suggesting to the doctor that divorce was detrimental. However, the doctor appeared energetic and unconcerned about being single. After receiving acupuncture, the supervisor overheard the doctor making a phone call to arrange a meeting. He immediately contacted Kai-jun and Jian-man, who were waiting outside, instructing them to follow the doctor. They tailed the doctor and saw him get into a car with a woman. Back at the office, they compiled their findings. Mrs. Gu was determined to divorce, and the doctor was suspected of having an affair. Faced with this predicament, Kai-jun devised a loophole. The second clause of the divorce insurance policy stipulated the insured must be a male or female adult without any extramarital affairs. If they could prove the doctor's infidelity, they could void the policy, thus protecting their performance goals. The supervisor praised Kai-jun's ingenuity and ordered everyone to find evidence of the affair. However, Han-dul felt that exposing the couple's private matters would only cause more pain to Mrs. Gu, who was already suffering. Kai-jun decisively stated that it had to be done. Only when the divorce insurance product officially launched could people like Mrs. Gu benefit. Han-dul remained speechless. For the first time, the usually harmonious pair found themselves at odds. At the end of the workday, Jian-man looked at the teddy bear Na-rae had left behind. his heart filled with a flutter of emotions. He took a picture of it and sent it to her. Na-rae replied instantly with a picture of herself drinking wine while working overtime. Unable to resist the urge to see her, Jeon-man quietly went to the office. Unexpectedly, Na-rae, also unable to bear the tension between them, was on her way to see him, wine bottle in hand. Others also found sleep elusive that night. Kai-jun and Han-duel, the pair who had clashed earlier. Kai-jun went to Han-duel's apartment to apologize. He regretted disappointing her. Han-duel confessed that she wouldn't have felt so hurt if it had been anyone else, but it was Kai-jun. He declared his intention to step out of the ambiguous zone and define their relationship. Unable to contain his feelings, Kai-jun moved closer to Han-duel. Just as their lips were about to meet, a text message arrived on Han-duel's phone, breaking the spell. To hide his flustered emotions, Kai-jun quickly excused himself. As he stepped out of the elevator, he bumped into Na-rae, who was looking for him. He pulled her aside and explained that he and Han-duel had swapped apartments. When Na-rae pressed him again about their relationship, Kai-jun didn't evade the question, admitting the potential for something significant between him and Han-duel. Hearing this, Na-rae decided to finally let go of her lingering feelings and the past they shared. Lost in their conversation, they were oblivious to Jeon-man ringing Kai-jun's doorbell. Han-duel opened the door, much to Jeon-man's surprise. She frankly explained the apartment swap and her fondness for Kai-jun. Jeon-man genuinely expressed his happiness for them. After offering his congratulations, he turned to leave. At the complex gate, Jeon-man ran into Na-rae. They decided to grab a late-night meal. Na-rae opened up to him, confessing that her previous attempts to confirm Kai-jun and Han-duel's relationship weren't driven by lingering affection, but by a desire for revenge. She wanted Kai-jun to struggle with letting go of their past marriage. However, hearing him admit to a budding new romance released the pent-up emotions within her. Now, she felt a sense of relief and freedom. Jeon-man couldn't help but smile. Na-rae's residual feelings for Kai-jun had been a concern. Her words finally alleviated his worries. Na-rae asked him to hold on to her wine, saying she'd come over any time to drink it with him. Jeon-man gently placed one earbud in her ear. They shared the cheerful melody, their already inclined hearts drawing closer. Kai-jun and Han-duel's relationship progressed rapidly. Too excited to sleep, Kai-jun texted Han-duel again, expressing his desire to define their relationship and move beyond the ambiguity. Han-duel happily reciprocated, eager for a deeper connection. The next day, to resolve Mrs. Gu and Dr. Park's divorce case, the four colleagues set out to find evidence of the doctor's alleged affair. Ah-young visited the village chief's dance studio, her blind date, to inquire about dance classes suitable for older adults. She thought that if Dr. Park wasn't having an affair, perhaps this could help rekindle their relationship. After receiving suggestions, Ah-young lay on the floor, lamenting the complexities of marriage. She admitted her own struggle to define true happiness. Many believed that marriage equaled happiness, but her job had shown her otherwise. Most people, upon learning she had no intention of marrying, predicted a lonely old age. While she tried not to be swayed by others' opinions, their words sometimes bothered her. The village chief patiently consoled her, advising her not to harbor negativity towards marriage. He suggested she try looking at it from a different perspective. After getting married, you have someone to confide in, someone to care for you when you're sick. These are the heartwarming aspects of marriage. Ah-young's mood gradually softened. As she stood up, she almost slipped, but the village head quickly caught her. The moment their eyes met, a subtle flutter stirred within both of them. Han-dae-ru was also busy dealing with the case. She decided to meet with Mrs. Gu, but coincidentally ran into her near the company. Mrs. Gu proactively revealed the reason behind her insistence on divorce. She had Alzheimer's disease. Her husband, who came from a poor background, had always struggled to support both sides of their extended family. Even after becoming a doctor, life was already a heavy burden, and she didn't want to become an additional one for him. She hoped that after the divorce, her husband would receive the divorce insurance money. It was the last thing she could do for him, a way to let him know the truth. Han's eyes reddened. She understood the deep affection Mrs. Gu had for her husband, but had to remind her that once divorced, legally, they would no longer be husband and wife. Hearing this, Mrs. Gu's hand trembled. It was clear that she couldn't accept this harsh reality. Han realized that Mrs. Gu didn't truly want a divorce. She just didn't want to be a burden to her husband. At this time, neither Has nor Mrs. Gu knew that Dr. Park had long been aware of his wife's illness. Kai Jun and Jian Man were staking out Dr. Park's clinic and saw him leave during work hours. They hurriedly followed him in their car. Seeing him stop in front of a house and a woman open the door, they assumed this was irrefutable proof of Dr. Park's infidelity. They stood outside, peering in, trying to find a way to sneak inside. Hearing strange noises and a cry of pain, they rushed in to help Dr. Park, who had just fallen. The first thing Dr. Park did after getting up was to check the sewing machine beside him. After confirming it wasn't damaged, he breathed a sigh of relief. He questioned their identities. Kai Jun and Jian Man had to confess who they were and explain about Mrs. Gu purchasing the divorce insurance. After a moment of shock, Dr. Park understood his wife's actions. He revealed that in his younger days, to support his studies, his wife had sold her mother's treasured sewing machine. After falling ill, she kept talking about that machine. To make up for her regret, he had searched everywhere and only today had he found an identical one. His wife had sacrificed her whole life for their family. He had just bought a new house and planned to surprise her with the sewing machine. He was currently worried about the move and earnestly asked for their help. Kai Jun and Jian Man returned to report the situation. The next day, the entire team, 5 people in total, went to Dr. Park's house to help. The village head, hearing the news, came to help as well. For him, being with Ah Young, doing anything, was a joy. While cleaning a drawer, Ah Young and Han found a notebook and a stack of red envelopes. They gave them to Dr. Park. He opened the notebook. Inside were carefully written recipes for side dishes. His wife, worried he would have to live alone, had specifically written them down. The red envelopes contained money that he and their children had given her over the years. She hadn't spent a single penny, carefully noting the date and the giver on each envelope. It seemed she wanted to use this method to remember the love of her family. On the last envelope, she noted that this was the money her husband had given her for her 60th birthday, and she wanted to use it for a nursing home. Thinking of his wife who had toiled her whole life, only thinking of others until the very end, Dr. Park felt incredibly remorseful and burst into tears. After the move was complete, Dr. Park brought his wife to the new house. Considering her mobility issues, he had specifically chosen a first-floor apartment. After opening the door, he pulled back a sheet to reveal the sewing machine his wife had longed for. Mrs. Gu's eyes filled with tears of joy, and she eagerly sat down to try using it. Watching his wife's focused expression, Dr. Park's mind drifted back to the past. Back then, while he was diligently studying, she used this very sewing machine to earn money and support their family. He used to blame himself for letting her shoulder so much, but she always comforted him, saying that just seeing him study gave her strength, and she would wait for the day he succeeded to repay her. Dr. Park had promised to give her a better life. Time flew by, and now they were both in their twilight years. Dr. Park cooked according to the recipes in his wife's notebook, quietly gazing at her profile, wishing time would stop so they could stay together forever. With Dr. Park and Mrs. Gu's issue resolved smoothly, the team leader invited everyone out for a celebratory meal. Jian Man kept looking forward to Na Rei's arrival. Finally, she appeared but brought shocking news. As of today, their special team was officially disbanded. Yesterday, after the divorce case was successfully resolved, the divorce insurance team members had a celebratory dinner. However, Na Rei arrived late with bad news. The divorce insurance team was being dissolved. It turned out that on her way to the celebration, Na Rei received a call from the vice president. Their competitor, Insurance Company B, had received approval from the Financial Supervisory Service first and officially launched their divorce insurance product. Therefore, their company's divorce insurance product approval was suspended. The vice president demanded she quickly disband the team to avoid negatively impacting the company. Everyone was stunned. They had worked tirelessly on research, testing, and were close to finalizing the product, only to have their work stolen. Han suddenly remembered that the director of Company B was her college senior. When they had dinner together, she had mentioned divorce insurance, but she hadn't revealed any details about the insurance policy. Everyone trusted Han Duel's integrity. However, unexpectedly, the next day, the audit team suddenly arrived, accusing Han of leaking computer data and took her away for investigation. At that moment, Jian Man arrived late and saw Na Rei. Seeing her rush off, he followed. Na Rei went to the parking lot to find the vice president. She said the audit team was investigating the data leak and that they had to get Company B's newly approved divorce insurance product revoked. The vice president warned her that her original purpose in coming here was to steal the unique product developed by the employees and take it to China, advancing her own career. Now, it seemed their company's divorce insurance product was going nowhere. Before they got implicated, they should withdraw as soon as possible. Seeing Na Rei's unusual expression, the vice president suspected she had developed feelings for the divorce insurance team. Na Rei lied, saying she had no intention of sharing the hardships with the team. Overhearing their conversation, Jian Man felt confused. Learning that Han was being investigated for data leakage, he had a hunch that this was related to Na Rei and the vice president. At the end of the workday, Han Duel was released but remained under suspicion and was suspended from work. Na Rei was blamed by everyone for not helping Han. They didn't know that she had been secretly searching for the insider who leaked the data. Through surveillance cameras, Na Rei discovered that the vice president's subordinate had entered the divorce insurance team's office after hours, and the entry time coincided with the computer usage time. Currently, only the external board member and the vice president had access to the employees' computer login codes. Na Rei immediately realized that the vice president was behind everything. She hesitated, unsure whether to report it to the audit department or confront the vice president for confirmation. Just then, she received a call from Jian Man. They met on the rooftop. Jian Man frankly told her that he had overheard her conversation with the vice president and hoped she would think carefully and make a better choice. Hearing Jian Man's disappointment about her earlier statement about not wanting to share the team's hardships, Na Rei explained that she said it to conceal her true feelings from the vice president. Jian Man believed her and didn't press her further about what her true feelings were. Na Rei looked at Jian Man, feeling both touched and comforted, which strengthened her resolve. The next day, Na Rei brought the collected evidence to the vice president, exposing him as the one who leaked the data. The vice president threatened that they were in the same boat. If the divorce insurance team learned about Na Rei's initial intentions, the consequences would be severe, advising her to turn a blind eye. Na Rei refused to be complicit, but she worried that everyone would never forgive her. Remembering her experiences with the team and her budding relationship with Jian Man, she couldn't hold back her tears. Jian Man came to find her, quietly sitting beside her, showing her through his actions that he was there for her. Na Rei mustered the courage to confess to everyone that her original purpose was to exploit them to create a special insurance product to salvage the Chinese market. Therefore, when sending the terms and conditions in Chinese, she had requested to use the divorce insurance team's computer. Unexpectedly, the vice president seized this opportunity to leak the insurance details to Company B. She presented Han Duel's computer login records. Now they needed to prove that Han Duel wasn't present when the data was leaked. Kai Jun remembered they were holding a remarriage ceremony for a client in the countryside that day. Ah Young immediately retrieved a group photo from the ceremony from her phone. The timestamp on the photo proved Han Duel wasn't at the company. With that resolved, Na Rei presented the surveillance video. Next, they had to find the vice president's subordinate who had entered and exited the team's office to prove he leaked the data under the vice president's instructions. Kai Jun and Jian Man went to the subordinate's house, intercepting him as he was trying to escape. They boxed him in with their cars. The subordinate was afraid of being implicated. Kai Jun and Jian Man promised to do their best to help him avoid charges. So, he handed them a USB drive. Na Rei quickly took the USB drive to the director of Company B. It contained a recording of the conversation between the vice president and the director of Company B, fully exposing their collusion. Faced with this, the director of Company B agreed to withdraw their divorce insurance product. The vice president still tried to resist, but was taken away by the audit team for investigation. Everything was resolved. As Na Rei entered the elevator, she saw Jian Man coming to find her. He was worried she would have a hard time facing the aftermath alone and wanted to offer support. Na Rei wryly remarked that even though the divorce insurance team was saved, she still didn't know what would happen to her. Jian Man took her hand, silently assuring her that no matter what she faced, she wasn't alone. Everyone ate pizza to celebrate the official launch of the divorce insurance product. Wishing it great success, but worried about Na-Rei's punishment. They looked forward to Na-Rei's return. Before they could see her again, they encountered a new client seeking a divorce. It was Mr. Kim, a division head from the Financial Supervisory Service. He frankly stated that he wanted a divorce, unwilling to continue a fake marriage with his wife. Mr. Kim's words reminded Han of her own parents. They were also a fake couple, clearly without affection, yet maintaining a facade of happiness in public. They even asked her to pretend she wasn't divorced out of pride. Not long ago, on her father's birthday, she and Jun went back to her hometown. They met Han's mother at the gate. Han introduced Jun as a colleague, but her mother gave Jun a disdainful look and walked straight into the yard. Han cut the birthday cake for her father, but he was engrossed in playing chess and paid no attention to her. Han's mother constantly suspected an inappropriate relationship, convinced Han had an affair with her son-in-law, leading to the divorce. Unable to explain, Han was pressured by her mother to bring her ex-husband to a family gathering to maintain the facade of their marriage. Finally cracking under the pressure, Han accused her parents of prioritizing appearances over her well-being. Her parents dismissed her outburst, preaching the virtues of tolerance in marriage. Unable to bear the suffocating atmosphere, Hill stormed out, squatting by the door, gasping for breath. The next moment, she saw Jun squatting beside her, offering silent support. Back in the present, Hill felt pessimistic about her parents' view on marriage. This charade mirroring the situation of Mr. Kim, the department head, sitting before her. Kai-jun investigated Mrs. Kim's situation. Ah-young, an avid internet user, recognized Mrs. Kim, Ryo Ji-yoon, as an online influencer who frequently showcased their seemingly loving relationship in live streams. Kai-jun reported back that the couple hadn't violated any clauses in the divorce insurance contract. It wasn't a sham divorce, and Ryo Ji-yoon had no intention of separating. The team leader believed that since their relationship had once been strong, identifying their individual needs and helping them find common ground could prevent the divorce. Everyone agreed this was a good approach. Unexpectedly, Handi argued they shouldn't intervene. Mr. and Mrs. Kim were destined to divorce. Yesterday, during their consultation, Kai-jun and Han-dul had explored the conflict between Mr. Kim and his wife. They had fallen in love at first sight and married after just 4 months. After the wedding, Ryo Ji-yoon became obsessed with sharing their daily life on social media. Every detail, every corner of their home was documented. As her followers grew, their praise for her sophisticated lifestyle and happy marriage fueled her obsession, leading to even more meticulous sharing. Even when Mr. Kim hosted the minister and his wife for dinner, Ryo Ji-yoon prepared a lavish feast solely to receive compliments on her cooking. The minister's wife, a fan of Ryo Ji-yoon, knew the location of their bathroom and the brand of their sofa despite it being her first visit. Watching Ryo Ji-yoon drag the minister and his wife into photo ops, Mr. Kim felt utterly exhausted. He didn't want his private life on public display. Moreover, Ryo Ji-yoon was so caught up in performing affection that she ignored his exhaustion, even to the point of collapsing from overwork. He'd even explicitly stated his preference for his old razor, yet she insisted on replacing it with a new one. Mr. Kim felt they were living a fake life for others, a charade that was suffocating him. Thus, he decided on divorce to reclaim his life. Han understood Mr. Kim's feelings. Her parents also appeared loving to outsiders, but only she knew the love was gone, their marriage sustained by appearances. During the team discussion, Hill advocated respecting Mr. Kim's decision. Jun countered that their goal was to minimize rejected cases, and Ryo Ji-yoon didn't want a divorce. The team leader intervened, reminding everyone of their recent struggles. With Na-Rei suspended, the remaining members needed to work together. After further discussion, they decided to persuade Mr. and Mrs. Kim to attend marriage counseling. This time, Jun met with Mr. Kim. Drawing on his experience with 3 divorces, he advised Mr. Kim to give their relationship another chance. Even if they ultimately divorced, it should end amicably. Han met with Ryo Ji-yoon, who confessed her longing for a child. She had even created a social media account to document her future child's growth, but she hadn't conceived yet. To comfort her, Mr. Kim suggested they frequently post photos of their happy life together. After following her husband's advice, she received a flood of compliments, finding satisfaction and posting even more, oblivious to her marriage teetering on the brink. Persuaded by Kai-jun and Han-dul, Mr. Kim and Ryo Ji-yoon agreed to marriage counseling, giving their relationship another chance. The therapist asked them to write down things they wanted to do together. Ryo Ji-yoon filled the page, while Mr. Kim wrote only one thing. After a day without their phones, Kai-jun and Han-dul decided to fulfill Mr. Kim's wish first, arranging a dinner at a fancy restaurant. Free from the pressure to document and share, Mr. Kim was content. He put down his phone and enjoyed their private time. Ryo Ji-yoon also felt a rare sense of ease. She sweetly fed him, unaware he was allergic to shrimp. The pleasant dinner ended abruptly with him rushing to the restroom. The promising evening took a downturn. Undeterred, Jun and Han-dul next arranged for the couple to take a dance class. During the lesson, their unfamiliarity with the steps led to a tumble. Ryo Ji-yoon burst into laughter, recalling a similar fall while skiing. They exchanged glances and laughed together. The fond memory filled her with happiness, but Mr. Kim, nursing a sore back, was irritated. He couldn't understand her amusement while he was in pain. Rebuked, Ryo Ji-yoon felt hurt and, in a moment of anger, suggested ending their relationship. Kai-jun and Han-dul quickly intervened, comforting both of them. They could no longer force reconciliation as insurance agents, but hoped the couple would follow their hearts, deciding whether to continue or separate. Calmer now, Ryo Ji-yoon applied a pain relief patch to Mr. Kim's back. He admitted that purchasing the divorce insurance wasn't a genuine desire to split. He hadn't anticipated things escalating to this point. Ryo Ji-yoon reflected on her social media obsession, while Mr. Kim blamed himself for using work as an excuse, neglecting their marriage. They reminisced about their engagement, recalling his promise to her during a walk home from that very spot. The happy moment was fleeting. Back in the present, they agreed to give their marriage their all, regardless of the outcome. Arriving at the office, the insurance team was surprised to see Na-rae. She explained she'd requested reinstatement from the director, and, if they accepted her, she would rejoin their fight. Jeon-man was the first to speak, fully welcoming her back. It turned out Jeon-man had played a key role in Na-rae's return. He had invited her to dinner, encouraging her not to give up and hoping she would rejoin the team. This support helped Na-rae overcome her anxieties, allowing her to successfully negotiate with the director and return. Following Jeon-man's lead, Han-dul and the others also welcomed Na-rae back. With all 6 members together, the team was finally complete. Jeon-man intentionally waited for Na-rae, taking her to play arcade games. On the way, Na-rae was almost hit by a car, but Jeon-man quickly pulled her to safety. Their eyes met, and both felt their hearts racing. At the arcade, they played like mischievous children, competing fiercely. Being together felt joyful and exhilarating. Meanwhile, Joan accompanied Han to her family gathering. Inspired by Mr. and Mrs. Kim's situation, Han found the courage to abandon her submissive persona, no longer prioritizing her parents' image. Arriving, she saw her ex-husband playing the role of the dutiful son-in-law, the family seemingly happy and harmonious. After she sat down, his blatant request for payment for his performance disgusted her. Unable to tolerate his hypocrisy any longer, she announced to everyone that they were divorced, revealing his infidelity. Her parents were furious at her for shaming the family, and her ex-husband flew into a rage. Ignoring their reactions, Hill walked away decisively. Outside, she shouted in liberation, finally free from the cage of familial expectations. From now on, she would live authentically. Kai-jun, captivated by her joy, could no longer contain his feelings. He impulsively kissed her. Their hearts aligned, they shared a passionate kiss. In that moment, their world contained only each other. After the sweet kiss, Kai-jun and Han's affection deepened. They commuted to work together. In the crowded elevator, their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. Jeon-man, also experiencing romantic progress, tried to move closer to Na-rae in the elevator, but the dense crowd thwarted his attempts. Observing his mixture of eagerness and frustration, the text cuts off here. Everyone entered the company to find the team leader had generously bought everyone coffee, much to their surprise. He excitedly recounted his streak of good luck, a smooth bathroom break, the bus arriving just as he reached the stop, and a surprisingly short wait for coffee despite a long initial line that dispersed after the person in front of him finished their order. He had a premonition that something good was about to happen. Just as he finished speaking, Han's coffee cup suddenly spilled onto the table. Kai-jun offered his coffee to Han, But Jian Man immediately intervened, insisting everyone should have their own and that the remaining cup belonged to Na. As they bickered playfully, Mr. and Mrs. Kim unexpectedly arrived. Mr. Kim announced their final decision. The 5 team members anxiously awaited the couple's answer, only to learn they had decided to divorce. Recognizing the irreparable state of their relationship, Kai Jun had them sign the insurance termination agreement, expressing his understanding of their choice. Both Mr. and Mrs. Kim thanked the team for their help, acknowledging that the counseling had prevented a bitter separation. The process had helped them realize they had grown accustomed to living separate lives. Parting ways was the best option. The couple's outcome reminded Jun of his sister. If he had taken her desire for divorce seriously, perhaps there wouldn't be lingering regret. To address this regret, he asked Han to teach him how to knit, hoping to finish his sister's unfinished project. After work, Hill took him to the knitting studio, patiently guiding him. Connecting with his sister's hobby, Jun opened up, sharing the story buried deep within his heart. His sister had confided her unhappiness and desire for a divorce, but he had dismissed it as complaining, impatiently advising her to persevere. Shortly after, she unexpectedly passed away. He constantly wondered if supporting her divorce would have changed the outcome. Han consoled him, comparing life to the knitting in his hands. Don't unravel the whole piece because of a missed stitch, and don't dwell on the past. The lesson ended, and they returned to their respective apartments. Han noticed Jun's sister's unfinished knitting and a photo of Jun. On the back, a message in a flirtatious tone asked Jun for a date. Realizing Jun still kept mementos from his ex-wife, Han felt a pang of disappointment. Just then, Ah Young called, saying she was coming over for drinks and was almost at her door. Han rushed home to prevent Ah Young from discovering their apartment swap and secret relationship. Breathlessly, she reached her door, determined to pull Ah Young out for drinks. Ironically, Jun suddenly opened the door and stepped out. Caught red-handed, Han confessed everything, from the initial ambiguity to officially defining their relationship with Jun, sharing her joy at finding love again. Meanwhile, Kai Jun and Jian Man went out to comfort their despondent team leader, who was drowning his sorrows in alcohol. It turned out today was the day his wife returned home from her trip. To welcome her back, the team leader planned to take her out for Korean BBQ. Unexpectedly, his wife presented him with divorce papers, her face emotionless, asking for a divorce. The team leader felt wronged. He worked tirelessly just to provide a better life for his wife and children. Yet, his wife claimed he wasn't a good husband or father. Jun advised him to reflect on when his wife started to become disappointed in him. Only by analyzing every detail could he find the reason for her wanting a divorce. The team leader sank into deep thought. He remembered when his 2 sons were young, and his wife took them to a public bathhouse. His son, over 3 years old, had to go to the men's bath. Due to his absence, his wife could only watch other fathers comfortably taking their sons into the men's bath, while she had no choice but to take her son home. His wife went grocery shopping alone for the family, and on the way, the grocery bag ripped, scattering fruits and vegetables everywhere. She could only watch other husbands carrying groceries for their wives walk by, while she awkwardly knelt down to gather the spilled produce. In the evening, his wife was still busy in the kitchen, while their 2 sons fell asleep amidst the clutter of the living room. She carried their younger son to bed and, hearing him come home, breathed a sigh of relief, asking him to carry their older son to his room. Instead, she found him drunk on the floor, boasting about receiving the highest bonus. The family planned to take a family photo, but he abruptly changed his plans to attend the funeral of the vice president's mother, thinking they were always together and there would always be another opportunity for a photo. Recalling countless times he used work as an excuse to be absent from family life, leaving all the burdens and responsibilities to his wife, the team leader felt incredibly remorseful. After work, he asked his wife out to dinner, apologizing for using work as an excuse to avoid his responsibilities for so many years. He thought that providing his children with the opportunity to study abroad and his wife with the chance to travel meant he was taking good care of his family. But now he realized that nobody cared that he was an insurance salesman. Thousands of others could replace him. But to his wife and children, he was the only husband, the only father. He had missed his children growing up and didn't want to lose his wife. He promised to change, begging her to give him another chance. After completing the divorce insurance project, he would officially retire, dedicating all his time to his family. Although reproachful, his wife also knew that he had sacrificed a lot for the family over the years, just hadn't balanced work and family life. Therefore, she decided to give him a chance to mend their fated relationship, while she herself was facing a difficult choice between Na Rei and Jian Man. Na Rei received a transfer order from the company, a promotion from managing director to representative, but she had to relocate to the Singapore branch. She showed the transfer order to Jian Man, saying she needed a risk assessment specialist to accompany her to Singapore. The person she chose was Jian Man. Jian Man promised to think it over and give her an answer. Before leaving, he couldn't help but ask why she chose him. "Do you need me?" "Yes." Kai Jun discovered Jian Man secretly looking up information about Singaporean culture and customs. Assuming Jian Man was preparing for a trip to Singapore, Jian Man kept the real reason a secret. Hill, thinking Jian Man was indeed going on vacation, was envious that he had time for a relaxing break while she had to work overtime. On the bus home, Hill saw the heavy rain outside, feeling apprehensive about getting soaked. Unexpectedly, as she got off the bus, she saw Jun waiting for her with an umbrella. Seeing Jun's wet shoulders, she knew he had been waiting for her for a long time. They went back to Jun's place together. Haj took out the photo and apologized for accidentally seeing it. Kai Jun told her it was a photo taken by his third wife. The reason for their divorce was entirely his fault. Whenever his ex-wife suggested they do something together, he always put it off for later. Over time, his ex-wife felt they had different perspectives on life and, heartbroken, asked for a divorce. He kept the photo to remind himself not to repeat that mistake. Until yesterday, he happened to run into his ex-wife on the street. Beside his ex-wife stood another man, a happy smile on her face. He was glad she had found new happiness. He believed that if his ex-wife knew about Han, she would also wish him well. With that, Jun tore up the photo. The past was let go. From now on, he would cherish Han and build their future together. Han's heart overflowed with happiness, and she shyly invited him to stay. They shared a passionate and sweet night together. In a dream, Jun saw his sister. This time, instead of watching her back as she walked away with a lost expression, he strode forward and embraced her, making up for his long-held regret. Kai Jun and Hanel began their sweet life together, inseparable and always doting on each other. It was fortunate that after a failed marriage, they had found compatible partners. Ah Young, who had once declared she would never marry, wore the ring given by the village head, deciding to give their relationship a chance. However, they agreed to date for now, not marry. Na Rei wanted a clear answer. Would Jian Man agree to go to Singapore with her? The words were on the tip of her tongue, but she didn't want to pressure him, so she decided to patiently wait for his answer. Jian Man noticed her hesitation and understood what she wanted to say. Before giving Na Rei his answer, Jian Man met Kai Jun on the rooftop. He told Jun about the opportunity to go to Singapore with Na Rei. Kai Jun frankly told him not to worry about his past relationship with Na Rei. As a friend, Jun sincerely hoped Jian Man would find happiness and advised him to follow his heart, be with Na Rei, and let her know his decision quickly. The team leader, who had vowed to change, began to take action. He went grocery shopping with his wife. Years of not doing physical work meant that even with the will, his body couldn't keep up. Carrying just 2 bags of groceries left him breathless. His wife offered to help, but just then, he saw an elderly couple walk by. The old man, his hair white with age, carried several bags effortlessly. The team leader's pride flared. He struggled to carry the groceries and then went home to cook for his wife. Everyone's lives seemed to be changing for the better. However, Na Rei suddenly brought bad news. During a live stream, Hangzim had recounted her entire divorce story. Based on that, an anonymous netizen fabricated a post targeting the divorce insurance team, accusing them of promoting divorce. Na Rei said the company's management was very concerned about the incident. They had to come up with a countermeasure quickly, or they wouldn't be able to launch the divorce insurance product. Everyone racked their brains, but by the end of the workday, they still hadn't found a solution. After work, Jian Man invited Na Rei to his place to watch a movie. Na Rei wasn't really focused on the film, while Jian Man watched intently. When the movie ended, they began discussing the plot. Jian Man suddenly had an idea for a clause they could include in the divorce insurance product. Hearing this, Na Rei felt that Jian Man was even more serious than she thought. Jian-man thought he should be more serious too. The atmosphere between them grew more ambiguous as they looked at each other. Seeing Jian-man stand up, Na-Rei thought something was about to happen between them. Unexpectedly, Jian-man suddenly turned on the lights, breaking the mood, and started clearing the table. He grabbed the wine glass from Na-Rei's hand, saying he had to work, and ushered her out the door. Na-Rei was bewildered by his series of confusing actions, but he paid no mind, slamming the door shut. He carefully packed his most prized possession and Na-Rei's stuffed animal into his suitcase before opening his laptop and focusing on work. It turned out he planned to wait until after resolving the divorce insurance crisis to officially tell Na-Rei that he would go to Singapore with her. To hasten that moment, he had to put aside his feelings for Na-Rei and focus on their long-term plan. Just like Jian-man, even while dating Han, Kai-jun couldn't stop thinking about how to deal with the crisis. Han had just returned from her hometown. Although her parents still hadn't accepted her divorce, she herself was at peace. From now on, she decided to face everything bravely, no longer caring about other people's opinions or attitudes. After all, she was the center of her own life. Han's words unexpectedly sparked an idea in Jun. He suddenly figured out how to resolve the crisis. The next day, he presented his idea to everyone. They could offer a self-care plan. If a couple ultimately divorced, it meant both would return to the starting point of single life. Whether married or divorced, their principle remained to help each individual live better. In short, divorce insurance was just a tool or an opportunity. The purpose was to encourage couples to reflect on the reasons for their divorce, not to promote divorce itself. Everyone agreed that this solution was feasible and immediately got to work. They worked overtime to finalize the clauses related to the self-care plan. After presenting the plan to their superiors, Kai-jun brought back the good news that it had been approved. Soon after, the company officially signed off on the launch of the divorce insurance product and posted an announcement about its upcoming release. Na-Rei announced the official dissolution of the divorce insurance team as of that day. Having completed their mission, they would return to their original teams. They had fought together and won. Every step of their journey had become a beautiful memory. They all cherished the days they had worked side by side. Na-Rei, noticing everyone's sentimentality, took the initiative to organize a farewell party at the beach, bringing a sense of closure to their parting. That evening, the team leader returned home and gave his wife a travel itinerary. Knowing her lifelong dream of seeing the aurora, he had secretly arranged the trip. He hoped it would be their second honeymoon. They arrived at their destination, played in the snow, and then leaned on each other, watching the beautiful aurora borealis, a gesture expressing their bond and current happiness. Kai-jun and the others also went to the beach to give Jian-man a chance to be alone with Na-Rei and tell her about his decision regarding Singapore. During the meal, Kai-jun deliberately led everyone outside, subtly signaling to Jian-man, "Don't hesitate anymore." Jian-man took Na-Rei to sit by the beach. He was about to tell her that he agreed to go to Singapore with her when she suddenly fell asleep on his shoulder. He looked at her affectionately, chuckling that she had missed his answer. The trip ended. The six of them strode into the company, officially presenting the divorce insurance product with its complete system to the public. After everything was settled, Na-Rei arrived at the airport to leave for Singapore. She looked back longingly, searching for Jian-man. Seeing him striding towards her, tears welled up in her eyes as she stepped forward and gave him a passionate kiss. A new day began, with Kai-jun and Han Duel strolling in matching sweaters. Han excitedly read the news that the launch of divorce insurance had caused the company's stock price to soar. Kai-jun proudly boasted that they were the ones behind this success. An unstoppable team, success was inevitable. As the creators of divorce insurance, the six of them answered interviews together, with a single question, "Are you happy?" "Yes."